All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Monthly reports, Chief.
Sure. First report I have is our budget. Overall, we're in good shape. I did need to transfer about $41,000 into our overtime salary line, but I transferred from another overtime line, so overall we should be fine. And our current spending is 78.60, should be 83.3, so
right,
we're under budget, so that's good news. That may catch up as the fiscal year ends, but no concerns at this point.
Okay.
Next budget I have is animal control, and that is at 75.80. That's okay as well. And our dog fund is 63.10. So no concerns with police department, animal control, or dog fund budgets. Any questions?
None here. Jim Shikeva?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Next report I have is our staffing report, and we've lost 26%. And that's comparable to 26.48 and 39.34 years previous, same month. And we were minimum shift about 53% of the time, and that's slightly higher than last year and much lower than 2019. Right now we have officers Deacon Lambert that are off the shift SRO duties, one officer on military leave, probably be about a year, one officer on injury and or extended sick leave, and one officer on FMLA for part of the month. So that all contributes to our staffing efficiencies, but overall, in comparison to years past, we're in good shape staffing wise.
FMLA, family, is that family
medical leave.
Okay.
Next report I have is monthly statistics. So I'll just highlight some items. Family disputes 16 versus 13. So that's a increase. Larcenies from vehicles 16 versus 15. So that's an increase, and can't say it enough. We had a couple of stolen vehicles just the other day. So these folks continue to come into town and steal vehicles, and we recovered a stolen vehicle in Hartford that was stolen in Canton. So it gives you an idea of how far these people are coming to steal in our town. Motor vehicle accident property damage 104 versus 75. So that's a big increase, largely due to increased traffic because COVID is waning and starting to normalize. So you'll probably see those numbers climb. Motor vehicle accident injuries 7 versus 12. So that's a good reduction. I hope that continues. Psychiatric problem 20 versus 19. So even more than last year, and likely going to see that increase as well for a variety of reasons. But like I said, our officers continue to handle those incidents exceptionally well. And so we're very proud of them in that regard.
Okay.
And stolen vehicles, 13 versus 6. So sadly, that continues to climb as people leave their keys in their car. They continue to be stolen.
If the press is on, I hope they paid attention to that. 13 versus 6 a year ago. All right.
More than double.
Thank you.
Next report I have is false alarm aging. Pretty significant number, over 120, 10,350. So collectability of that is questionable. I know finance is doing a good job overall, but that's a pretty significant number. I don't know if they're going to have to write that off because it's so old, but we'll continue to work with the finance department on collecting those fines. Next report I have is extra duty aging. Around $31,000 is over 61 days. So that's a much smaller number than months past. So that's a good sign that the money is being collected. But you know, anything that gets older than 90 days, I think it gets harder and harder to collect that money. So our finance department is well aware of it and they're working on it. So that's certainly good news. I have reports.
Okay, great, thanks. One thing we do want to add is there's an item from Aquarian. We're going to add that to the agenda. I need a motion to add that topic for Aquarium.
Move we add the Aquarian request to our agenda.
Yes, thank you. Second, Shikeva?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, great, thank you. A, Chamber of Commerce request to close Elm Street on the 17th of July. Who's handling this?
That's me. Hi, Paul. It's Laura Budd.
Hey there, Laura Budd.
So we're going to do sidewalk sale. I should have put Elm and part of Forest Street, so Athletic Shoe Factory can come out down on Forest Street. We would close that up until the Dance Academy so that the residents of that condo at the end of Forest Street could come in. We're not going to close Main Street this year, which we would have to have asked the state for permission for that. It's going to be bigger. Our sidewalk sale will be kind of bigger than last year, where we asked for two days to close the street. This year, we're just going to ask for one. We feel we can do it all in one day. Friday, they'll be out on the sidewalk, but Saturday, we would like to close the Elm Street and then the little pop-up park area that, you know, at the very end of South Avenue where it abuts Elm.
Okay, I'm sorry. You want the pop-up park area to be closed?
Yes.
On Saturday as well?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because, okay, I got it. Because all of Elm and that little area and Forest.
Correct.
Okay, got it. How about for people who live on Forest? Same as last time, we can go back and forth on.
Yeah, what we've done in the past is that we close the street, we close half of the street, and then we pay to have a police officer sit at the bottom of that street, so any of those residents can come in going the wrong way on the one-way street and get access to their driveways. Great.
Okay. All right. A motion. Any discussion on this? Seems pretty straightforward. All right. A motion to approve.
I move to approve the request for the sidewalk sale street closures.
Okay. Shakeba, second.
I second.
Aye. All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Laura. Item B, art in the windows request. This is the pop-up park area, right? Who's got this?
That is me, Hillary Whitman. I'm with the Carriage Barn Art Center.
Hey, Hillary. Good evening.
And together with Laura as well, because this is a project we do in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. We did this last year and we're hoping to do the same thing again this year. We have our kickoff event for Art in the Windows on Thursday, June 3rd. It's from 5 to 7 and we're requesting to close that pop-up park area, so between Morse Court and Elm Street on South Avenue for our event. Would probably need to be closed starting at 4 so we can set up. The event ends at 7 and we could have it opened up again by 7:30. In that area, we would be having an artist showcase of the artists exhibiting their work throughout town. We have about 45 stores who are participating in Art in the Windows. There would be sort of an art bar with various craft activities for families and kids. We would be kicking off a community art project similar to what we did last year with our pizza box challenge. We'll have live music of some local musicians playing, and it's all run by volunteers, our board members and volunteers, NCL volunteers, Girl Scouts. And that's all the details.
Okay, we got it. All right, good. Any questions from the commissioner?
No?
No.
It's a great event.
No, it sounds like a great idea. Great community project. Just curious, why Thursday versus a Friday? And I'm not pushing Friday.
We have always done it on a Thursday. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not really sure, but
okay, that's fine. We'll do it Thursday. That's fine.
Yeah.
Because Fridays can also be busier too.
Yeah, I think we also, I think last year we did it on a Thursday and we had a Friday rain date. We actually have another event at the Carriage Barn Friday, so we don't have a rain date. This is kind of a rain or shine thing, and hopefully it will be a beautiful day. But
okay.
Yeah.
And you've done all the clearances with the town, with Tucker.
We are
insurance and all that stuff.
Yeah, yes, we'll do that. We're submitting our event, special event form, and we'll get the insurance certificate to Tucker.
Okay, so let's just amend this. So subject to approval of the town going through the process of insurance and et cetera, you know, their approvals, we would approve it as well. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Does that sound good, commissioners?
Yes.
All right. So that'll be the new motion. Jim? Yes?
So subject to the town approval.
Yep.
I'd move to approve the request for the Art in the Windows Thursday, June 3rd closure of South Avenue as requested.
Right. Okay. Shakeva? Second.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Very good. That passes. All right. 3-0. Good. All right. Thank you. Next item. The C is New Canaan Library request to modify the sidewalk. And who's going to start on this?
Yes.
Daniel or Brian? Hey, Brian.
Good evening. Good evening, commission members. We're going to have Chris Cardenay answer some of the questions that were raised by the commission last month so that we have a clearer picture of how we're handling this. So, Chris.
Sure, and if I'm allowed, I'll share my screen and we'll look at the graphic.
Sure, 1 second, Chris.
Okay.
Give it a try now.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
All right, just to recap where we left off last month, there were a couple of improvements within the public right-of-way. That's why we're here tonight. This on your graphic is Maple bisecting the library site, the existing library up in the corner here, and then you have the center school parking lot to the south. We talked about, and I'll zoom in each of these areas, we talked about a crosswalk connection between parking and the new building. We talked about a drop-off in Maple. We also talked about a new widened entrance onto south from center school lot in this portion and squaring it up. Today it's at an angle here. And then because it's sort of related to accessibility, we've also added some accessible spaces and some signage in the service portion of the site. So I'll walk through each of those again, where we left off. So we, in terms of the crosswalk, we did a few things. We took the accessible spaces that were on the main entrance. This is an in and an out. We've relocated those inside the lot, provided sidewalk connections, current ADA striping and signage, and basically a direct shot from the sidewalk through a crosswalk up to the main entrance of the building. We were here last month discussing a raised crosswalk. We've heard some concern just in terms of it would be the only one in town and how would that work from a maintenance perspective. So we went back to an at-grade crossing. Our original proposal was for a striped crosswalk as there is today. This one's going to be a stamped asphalt similar to what you've seen in Elm Street. So there'll be a color change, a material change. You would have ramps, ADA ramps on either side, and just, again, a direct shot. On the north side, we've switched this to the town standard sidewalk, just concrete, rather than a paved pattern, a pavement pattern. And we have a yield to pedestrian sign. We have flash and beacon signs on either of the approaches. In terms of I'm happy to, if anyone has questions, just you can interject and we'll address it as we go through here.
Is it the flashing beacons similar to that's out by Irwin Park? That kind, it's not a stop sign as such. It's not a walk sign, but right. We'd have it at a regular intersection, but a flashing beacon.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
I'm not familiar with the intersection you just indicated.
It's Weed and
it's like that.
It's or something.
It's a rapid rectangular flashing beacon.
Got it.
It's an RRFB at that intersection.
if you're familiar with Long Wharf in New Haven, where all the food trucks are, it's something like that. You know, when you have a lot of pedestrian activity, it yields the traffic.
Okay.
And then the drop-off zone here, it's striped, it's signed, no parking, it's flush, so it's open to all. You know, it's accessible in a flush condition. And before I move to the next area of the site, are there any questions on this?
How many cars can fit in the drop-off zone?
About 2. It's bigger than 2.
Okay.
But not quite 3.
Got it.
Okay.
And then what is going on in the old space where you had handicaps?
So those will be striped as just conventional parking spaces.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Yep. Got it. Okay.
Moving to the south center school lot. Again, the entrance today is in only. We've been working with Mike Galante, who's also on the line here in terms of traffic. One of the recommendations was to open this up to two-way. It reduces traffic on Maple. Those that would make a left onto Maple and the left onto South can now just do it directly. And it also gives an alternative for those heading north on South. They can come out, make a right turn, and head up that way. We did widen it, and the town engineer recommended we square this up. She shared a concept that was done previously, and from an alignment perspective, that works out well. No loss in spaces. It's essentially taking these spaces and moving them here on the end, but operationally, we think this works better. So we'll have a stop sign control, and then we'll tie into the street today. We looked at site intersection distances, and we feel comfortable that this is the right place for the intersection.
Okay, what's your phrase was stop site control? What's that?
Stop sign. There's going to be a stop sign and a stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Yep. Okay.
And lastly is the service area. We've added in 4 ADA spaces. We've also added some signage on the road to indicate that there are spaces here, since they're kind of in the back of the building. And I guess just generally from the traffic perspective, we have gone back and forth with Mike Galante's office. He issued his latest letter last week, and I think that I won't speak on his behalf, but I feel that we've worked out the analysis part of it, and this it's likely that this is going to be subject to parking studies and traffic studies as a condition, since during COVID things aren't quite normal. So with that, I think I've covered anything. Brian, I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
No, that was very thorough. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. All right. So I guess technically we're asking for a vote of these improvements, that they're acceptable.
Yeah. Now on the last slide you had, those are handicap spaces in there. Is there 4? Right?
Yes. Yep.
And then how do the people get from there inside the building?
Don't write my name on it yet.
So this would be an accessible route around to the these doors here.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yep. This is all at grade or within 2% slopes.
Okay. Yeah, we're not passing any judgment on the doors and how to get in and out, but I think you might get some pushback on that. PNC, I don't know.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Hey, Mike Galante, can we hear from you?
Yep. Good evening, everyone. Mike Galante, Hardesty in Hanover. As Chris mentioned, we've been involved in reviewing different aspects of the traffic and parking studies for several months. And we issued a report about a week ago, maybe a little bit more, that essentially went through every step of the analyses. And we provided a sign-off really as far as the traffic impacts and the mitigation plan, which was touched on tonight. One was the modification of the crosswalk as type of pavement treatment, if you will. It's a flush crosswalk with concern, with a raised crosswalk being the first one in town, and pretty much everyone asking for one. there will likely be an obligation to follow up on not only traffic and parking, but maybe the crosswalk configuration a year or so after the library is open. For example, if hopefully not, but if there are actions there and concerns, then we have to revisit it with the librarian and the traffic consultants to maybe consider a raised crosswalk or some other modification. With the driveway from the parking lot directly to South Avenue on the south side of the graphic we're looking at, that we recommended the driveway being two-way. The town engineer recommended the alignment change, and Tiger was certainly involved with all of these discussions. But our recommendation was to provide the second means of exiting the parking lot to pull some traffic away from the Maple Street intersection, Maple Street itself, the crosswalk, and activities coming out of that driveway to mitigate potential impacts there. The exit drive being two-way directly to the south reduces the vehicle queuing on Maple Street, and we felt that was a significant benefit. For the 4 parking spaces on the northerly side of the back of the new library, that was really put in to address concerns of a person of some handicap means crossing Maple Street, and gives them the option of parking at the back of the building and then traversing the back of the building to enter the library or even the green in the future. So all of these aspects we agree with as far as the modifications, and we recommend and agree with these concepts and mitigation plans.
Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, anybody else from the library? Okay, the only minor thought here, I'm looking at the stamped asphalt page, and the looks like about 6 or 8 parking spaces that are along Maple Street. That'll be just regular parking spaces now. Yeah, right in there. They're at an angle. Should those be all just parallel to Maple Street? I mean, can you sort of plumb them up to Maple Street, or is that even an issue that I'm making out of this thing? It just looks odd. That's all.
Yeah, it's I guess we came up with it because it's the alignment there today. It's actually, right. And it's wider than normal. It's almost 28 feet. Normally that would be a bit narrower, so the turning movements are fine.
Okay,
in that
that's
direction.
fine.
But
all right, good. I think this is a great start. And as Michael said, if there's subject to some other traffic studies and we have some issues, we'll deal with that, down the road, I guess, right? All right, commissioners, any other thoughts?
None here.
Okay.
None here.
Okay, all right, I'm looking for a motion to approve these 3 changes.
I would move that we approve the library's request to modify the crosswalk on Maple Street as outlined in their proposal to us.
Okay, and then would you include then the modification of the driveway on South Avenue in the same motion? Yes.
Are we being asked to do that?
Yeah, I think so. Or John, are we asked to do that? Do you know?
I don't know if we have to, but
P&Z where for this?
P&Z is on.
Oh, they're on, okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we approve it just so that it's, so we don't have to do another step. I mean, I think it looks great. It's the right solution to it.
One more question from Mike Galante.
Yeah.
Does that need any kind of state approval because they're changing anything?
Yes.
Mike, does that need a little bit of state approval?
Yeah, we'll need, the applicant will need an encroachment permit to create the driveway, as well as the modifications to the existing driveway behind the new library for future conditions. Both of those would be pretty much one application probably to the state.
Okay, so what I would suggest is that we approve that tonight, both of those. That way it doesn't hold that up.
Why don't we say we'll provisionally approve the exit onto
South Avenue,
subject to the P&Z and the state and whatever other approvals are necessary.
Okay, fair enough. For both of those cuts in the driveway, right? The one just above the library too for the loading dock. They're going to need approval on that too.
Yes, they would.
Okay, I'm in favor of that. All right. That's the motion. Second, Shakeva?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, great. Okay, 3-0 there. Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That made a lot more sense this week. Right, thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And Mike. Next item, Elm Street sidewalk modifications. D, item D. All right, Tiger, you're up.
Okay. Jen, can I share my screen if I have availability?
Sure, 1 second. Give it a try.
Got it. All right, we see it now.
Yep.
Yep.
So this is the overall layout. Kind of, let it refresh. A little bit, so you can kind of see a little bit of a wider take on the entire picture. It also shows an additional treatment that we didn't discuss, but mid-block we were looking at changing 2 of the parking spaces to 15-minute only. So we would have 6 along the block, 2 here at the intersection of South and Elm, 2 here, basically in front of the plaza area, Dunkin' Donuts, and then 2 mid-block. That is the request from that was well received by the merchants in the chamber. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we were thinking there. If we kind of dial in a little closer, this was the plan that we had reviewed last time, and then what we reviewed in the field last week with the commission. Again, treatments haven't changed. Out on the southeast corner of Elm Street and South Avenue, 1 at the southwest corner, 1 at the mid-block crosswalk, on either side of the mid-block crosswalk on the southern side, and then a northerly bump out from South and Elm all the way through to and past the Playhouse. If there are any questions on what's being proposed, I know there are questions on the proposal, so I figured we could get right to it if you'd like.
Right. No, I think we got it. Any questions from the commissioners?
Well, I have three modifications that I would suggest to the proposal. I think that the proposal that Tiger, Maria, Michael, and the town engineers have presented is a very good one, particularly the creative way they've created 5 new spaces. Since we had to lose 13, this gives us 5 back. So I congratulate them for, I know it's been a long project, but I would suggest 3 modifications to it that I think are important, and I've discussed it briefly with most of you. The first is that the bump outs on the north side of Elm, I believe, should be narrowed to provide at least 2 feet of additional width to the traffic lane. Vehicles have become much wider than they were when Elm Street was initially laid out. In addition to that, as we all know, we have all the trucks making deliveries, and the trucks are very wide. Giving those extra 2 feet would give drivers a little bit more room to navigate around parked trucks and additional space to back out from the angle spots when a truck is behind them making a delivery. Now, I sent some photos to the commissioners and to Tiger, and I think you, John, today. I happened to drive through town today, not to do homework, but because I was getting lunch. And there was a truck making a delivery. And if you look at the first photo I sent you, you'll see the truck really goes to the dotted line, 2 or 3 inches off the dotted line. So there's not a lot of room. There was enough room for me to squeeze by. But as I was pulling by, a driver started to pull out from one of the angled spots in front of me. So I stopped. And then the driver pulled back into the spot. So I waited for a moment, and they started to pull back out again, and then stopped again. So at that point, I got out of my vehicle. I took these pictures, And you'll see in the second picture, there's a picture of a woman. That was the driver. So I said to her, am I too close? Am I blocking you from getting out? And she said, no, I can't, I need help to get out because that truck's there. I can't get out. Now, she had enough room to get out, but it was very tight squeeze. And so she said, can you help me? So I directed her and told her she had room and all of that, and she managed to get out. So, you know, on a sheet of paper, you'd say, well, she has enough room to get out. But the reality was she couldn't get out because she couldn't really see, and it was a very tight squeeze. So it just, by happenstance, illustrated again to me why I think we really should use this opportunity to reduce the width of the bump outs by relatively modest amount, I would say sort of 2 feet, and give the traffic lanes a little more room. Second, I would recommend reducing the size of the bump outs that are on the, I would say, north of the crosswalk that crosses south at the corner of South and Elm. The two areas that protrude into the intersection. I'm just wondering, I don't think it changes, Tiger, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it changes the protection that you give the pedestrians and that permit you to add the spaces. But if you reduce the size of those, I believe it would reduce the potential problem that again, it becomes a tight squeeze for people to make that turn. And I know that we've looked at and a truck can get by there, but you know, the reality when people are driving is they need a little bit of space to maneuver, even though they might have the right number of feet and inches on paper. When they're actually driving, they, you know, the turner may stop, back up, do it again. So I would suggest that we reduce slightly the size of those bump outs and maybe track the granite curb closer to the crosswalks themselves. Third, I would recommend not eliminating the 5 parking spots on the north side of Elm. We lost 13 spots when a concerned citizen pointed out the 1949 statute that the town had never complied with. We then did the striping. We did not do that because we were having accidents or safety issues. We did it because of legal and liability issues. That then led to other issues. Now we're doing the bump outs to address those. But eliminating those 5 spots really is not related, I don't believe, to the safety issues. So it would give us 5 additional spots. And instead of losing 5 and taking the additional 5 that Tiger and his team have created for us, we'd have a net gain of 5 instead of just a net gain of 0. And, you know, I believe, again, people wish to park on Elm Street to do their shopping, to do their errands, et cetera, et cetera. And I would be in favor. I think the spots are more valuable than the bump out space. That's my view. Those 3, I would recommend making those 3 modifications to the plan as presented.
Okay. Shakeba, thoughts?
The only thing that I had the concern with was the granite curb on the intersection of South and Elm. I visually, when we were getting a tour, I thought it might be just a little narrow, like the car has to come in and then make a left onto South Avenue. They would have to do kind of a stop in the middle of the road and make a sharp turn, if that is my understanding. Other than that, I have no concern.
Okay. Mike Galante, would you address some of this? Take it one at a time. The 2 feet narrower on Elm Street first.
Yeah. I'll start with the northerly side of Elm Street, where essentially the 5 spaces are, and the connection of those 2 bump outs, if you will, one opposite the South Avenue intersection and one pretty much in front of the Playhouse. I appreciate the comment, and I did see the pictures that were sent over this afternoon as far as the truck in that travel lane. I don't know the exact width of that current travel lane, but it's wider than 12 feet, which is a standard width of a travel lane. My concern with pushing the curb bump out back 2 feet, let's assume those 5 spaces are not there, that the whole strip is pushed back 2 feet. Or if there's cars are parked in before or after the bump outs, the parked car tends to sit out in front or beyond the curbing, meaning if the bump out's 6 feet wide and the parking space is 8 feet wide, that car that may not be parked up against the curb is sticking out a little bit. And that's always a concern of mine. And what we tried to do, even with eliminating those 5 spaces, was to have a continuous line along the northerly side of Elm Street from east of the South Avenue intersection up to the Playhouse area where you have the second crosswalk, actually third crosswalk. So there's a concern with that. Quite frankly, it's not the end of the world if it was pushed back 2 feet, but I would suggest not pushing it back. The other part of the puzzle, if you will, is the South Avenue intersection and the bump outs on both sides of the intersection. There are a lot of benefits to that. And I was on the field walk about a week ago, and I heard some of the similar concerns and comments. The layout of the bump outs, if you will, is, I don't want to call it a standard layout, but it's somewhat standard. If you go to really any town that's doing this type of treatment, they're doing exactly the same thing. And I know there are different people looking at this, and me included. We all kind of came up with the same answers, and essentially the same layout. If we were to cut back on the width of the bump out on South Avenue, where the crosswalk is, down South Avenue a little bit, again, the parked car or even the loading space that's there, the truck or car is kind of sticking out beyond the curb line on South Avenue, not on Elm Street.
Oh, sorry, man.
I'll get to Elm Street in a second. The idea of the bump outs and the alignment of that is to, quite frankly, tighten it up a little bit, reduce the crosswalk width that the person's crossing, the pedestrian. It makes the pedestrian more visible to any cars turning in and out of South Avenue, as opposed to someone crossing Elm Street. Again, they're on the bump out and they're 18 feet closer to the crosswalk instead of standing on the corner without a bump out and standing in that hatched out area, and you're open to a car making a tight turn, such as that white vehicle turning left from Elm to South Avenue. That shows exactly what we're trying to eliminate. We're trying to push that car into the intersection and not where it's sitting in that pitch. That pitch happens to be a perfect example of a concern that we certainly have. So I understand the concern with maybe making it a little bit wider, but I'd rather have it more controlled for pedestrian safety, using the crosswalk to cross the street, giving the pedestrian more visibility by standing on that bump out area, which would be a different type of pavement along with curbing. I would, and I've thought about this, I would keep what's shown by Maria here as far as the alignment. The trucks can make the turn in and out of South to Elm and Elm to South. Opening it up is making it more of an option to kind of use all the pavement to get in and out of a side street. Right now, South Avenue is kind of tucked away. You don't really see it as an intersection if you're driving down Elm Street because of the parked cars. The bump out on each corner defines the intersection. It makes it more visible and not only protects the pedestrian, but I think protects the car coming out of South Avenue. They will stop at the crosswalk, and we know that car will inch up to the next spot where the white car is to view to the right Elm Street traffic and pedestrians, and then complete that turn. So I see this as a package that they all kind of go together. And I think my recommendation would be to keep it the way it is, with not cutting back on the bump out, whether it's a foot or two or whatever it might be in each of those locations. In reference to eliminating those 5 spaces on the north side, generally from the Playhouse crosswalk, if you will, back towards the South Avenue intersection, I can see it being done both ways. It's nice to have the parking spaces, but I understand that the merchants and those that are concerned with having parking don't have an issue with the elimination of parking. I know there's some parking that's been eliminated with the dining on the sidewalks during this wonderful pandemic that we're experiencing. There is plenty of parking in the area, certainly. If the town's more of a preference to keep those spaces, you can. But I would keep the bump outs at the South Avenue intersection and at the crosswalk at the crosswalk at the Playhouse. I like the clean straight line, to be honest, on the north side. If the parking's not really needed, I get the impression almost everyone's pretty much okay with losing those 5 spaces because there's a net of 0 lost overall. I would go with the wider sidewalk, the experience for dining on the sidewalk and creating a sidewalk that's straight along the building frontage. So the pedestrians are walking, up against the building and not up against the curb line with dining, tables up against the building itself. So I do like the plan that's been presented without the changes.
Okay.
Michael.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Yes. With regard to when you say that everyone they've talked to likes the elimination of the spots, with all due respect, I don't think that's accurate, because
I think I said almost everyone. I didn't take a survey. I don't know if everyone is in favor, but I've heard that it's generally favorable. But I couldn't say it's 50% either way or 80-20. I don't know the answer.
Okay, granted. And also, yes, perhaps if you ask the merchant whose restaurant or store is in front of the expanded sidewalk, do you like this? They might say yes. What I'm really thinking about are the 19,000 citizens in town who are not being asked, who don't even know this is happening, but who will be inconvenienced by the lack of parking spaces. The reality is, drive down Elm Street any day of the week, 7 days a week. Very difficult to find a parking spot. Why is that? It's because people prefer to park on Elm Street. They can park in the back behind the Playhouse and walk through that alley and down the stairs, but it's not their preference. Just look at what they do. They park on Elm Street. So, when people say, well, we've asked people and they like it, we really haven't. Okay, we may have asked a few merchants who like it. And as you say, you don't even know whether it's 50% or 80%, but we have not asked people whether they like it. And part of what I think I try to do is to think about the citizens at large, not just the few people who come before us who wish to have something. So second, could you again explain why moving the north side bump outs in a little to create an additional space is a problem? I didn't understand.
Well, the concept is to eliminate those 5 spaces that's mid-block on that picture that we're looking at and create a wider sidewalk, eliminate parking. And you're suggesting, if I'm correct, if it's coming out 8 feet, you're suggesting just come out 6 feet, right?
Right.
Okay. My only concern with that, and there's nothing wrong with that, my only concern is that the parked car on either end is probably going to be sticking out beyond the curb line in the travel lane. That's really my big concern. That's it.
But don't the parked cars that are parked all along the north side of Elm Street stick out?
There are no bump outs today, so there's nothing pushing them out.
Right.
But also shorten the crossing distance.
Yeah, but the main issue here is really to create a safer environment for pedestrians to cross. When we were out there a week ago, it was a beautiful day. I think we were out there maybe at 2 o'clock. There were a lot of people walking on Elm Street, which was fantastic, and a lot of people crossing, not necessarily everyone crossing at the crosswalk. I think this whole thing is being driven by creating a safer environment for pedestrians in your downtown, which is great, but to have a little bit better condition, a shorter crosswalk and time to cross that street, whether it's at South Avenue or at the Playhouse. I think that's what's driving, excusing the word, but that's what's driving this concept is the pedestrian safety. Byproduct is, a better alignment for parking spaces, better definition, I know there are some people parking in areas that are hatched that are not parking spaces. I've heard where people move the sign or whatever that might be there to block it so they can go to Dunkin' Donuts and pick up a coffee. This concept is trying to address a few things. One is safety, which is certainly top of the list. One is functionality of the handicap spaces, the crosswalk, the distance to cross, and in my mind, controlling the South Avenue intersection a little bit better. You know, there's only a stop sign on the South Avenue northbound approach. I actually thought about, do we want to put a stop sign on Elm Street? I didn't suggest that, but I did consider it because we try to look at, you know, every different aspect of whether it's traffic control, vehicle movements, pedestrian activity, and so on. And I think with the bump outs, we kind of take care of that without, let's face it, no one's going to really stop at the stop sign. They're going to roll right through it on Elm Street. And I don't think anyone believes in putting a stop sign in that's not going to be, you know, one, not needed, and one, motorists don't obey it. So I happen to like this plan. I've been thinking about this and looking at this for quite a while, but I respect certainly your comments.
I personally do not think it enhances safety or would harm the safety to move it in that 2 feet. And again, I don't know how long you've been involved with these things, but we had no striping. We had no blockage of parking for 70 years. And there was not, correct me if I'm wrong, Leon or John, we did not have accidents and safety problems with pedestrians. We're, you know, to some extent, I feel we're solving a problem that doesn't exist. And we're doing it for a variety of reasons. The striping then raised a problem because of the trucks and other vehicles parking in striped areas where pedestrians were now potentially confused. Gee, is, you know, this is striped, you know, am I looking to cross properly, etc. But we really did not have a safety problem. And I don't believe we would have a safety problem by reducing those bump outs by 2 feet. I just don't. You know, having them walk 2 extra feet in the crosswalk, they currently walk the entire crosswalk. And there's, I don't believe we've had any accidents or pedestrians hit by vehicles or anything like that. They right there now go all the way across. So I understand the theory. You could say, well, maybe it's safer, but the reality is, I don't think it matters. I really don't. And I think the 2 feet would really enhance the traffic flow and the drivability and the convenience and ease of all the citizens coming down Elm. Just like that woman today, she couldn't get out of the parking spot.
Yep.
She couldn't get out. She pulled out it was a complete happenstance that I happened to be passing by. So I ended up being a traffic officer and waving her back and telling her, okay, you've got room. And she got out, but she would have just had to sit there and wait for the truck to leave. Now, so when we say, you know, we've asked people and they like the idea, well, she would have waited and gone home, and she's not going to go to town hall and write a letter about it. But, you know, there's a convenience factor that affects people, maybe not hugely, but a cumulative effect that I think is significant. So anyway, I believe we should narrow the bump outs on the north end of Elm by 2 feet for those reasons.
One thing that...
Paul, can I comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Tiger.
Well, thanks, Jim. We had discussed this prior as well. One of the things actually that's out there now is that the barricades actually cause cars to kind of shade away from them, right? Yeah, you know, if you're driving on the highway, you don't necessarily drive right up against the precast concrete barrier curbs. The exact same thing happens here, right? You don't have that feeling when the granite curb comes in, and now we've dropped that barrier, so to speak, by 2.5 feet, 3 feet. We'll see a little bit, and it might be inches, could be 6 inches, could be a foot. But I think that we're seeing also that play in as well. There's a little shying away from that side because of the barricades. The other aspect is we've had it for a year and we haven't had a complaint, right? As far as, because the trucks have always been there. They can't, what we saw today, was happening for a year, and we hadn't gotten the complaint, or hadn't gotten complaints, I should say, about that. Another aspect that we're trying to consider is what we want to do is reestablish the pedestrian way on the sidewalk. Right now, we come out around the area, you know, off the sidewalk onto the street with barricades, protect the pedestrian behind a barricade, what have you. What we're trying to do is back in its proper location, which would be back where it is normally. So then if there are any other amenities, be it tables, be it planters, trees, what have you, tables for outdoor dining, retail space, anything like that, that would be in this bump out area that we're proposing. And it would be a shame if we made it 6 feet and realized we needed 8. And then we're kind of stuck, because longitudinally is the most expensive for us to change, right? We can shorten it, you know, we can shorten it, but once we narrow it, if we want to try to then bump it back out again to a larger width, that's where the most cost is, obviously, because the granite curb is the border. And our feeling overall, as far as the 5 parking spaces is concerned, you're correct. When we restriped, we lost 13 spaces. We went to a larger space at the request of the commission. We lost 2 more, so we were down 15. Then we put in the barricades at COVID. We lost an additional 11. And then we did some modifications, further modifications for a couple of restaurants that wanted outdoor dining as well. Say Rosie's, say up at Chef Louis, Dolce. And we wound up probably losing 3 or 4 more. We didn't do an analysis on it, but we know we lost 11, and we probably lost about 3 or 4 more. So we're saying probably 13, 14 spaces gone. And when we take the barricades away, those all come back. So we'll get 6 back, at least 6, if not 9 back in the areas where the barricades are. And the only ones that we're proposing to stop or not bring back are the 5. And that's really also part of the pedestrian improvement and the enhancement of the downtown village, right? We're trying to make it so it's even more walkable, even more welcoming. You can imagine events out in front of the Playhouse. You know, once we have a tenant, we have people that we're talking to about it, but once we have a tenant, you can imagine enhanced events outside of the Playhouse in that entire courtyard area that has now been created, or that larger courtyard area has been created. So that's part of it. It's a pedestrian enhancement, number one. Whether or not we've had a history, you know, the fortunate thing is we haven't had we have no history, right? That's fortunate, but it doesn't negate the fact that we have to be cognizant of it. And in this day and age, the majority of people want to walk. They want to come downtown. That's one of the reasons why Canaan is so successful, is because we have a vibrant downtown. And it's the walkability thereof that brings that to the forefront. So that's really where we're at. As far as the overall layout, what we plan to do is what we plan to do on 4th Street, which is go out there, chalk it, put it out with cones or other barricades, so to speak, and then see how everything turns and everything plays, right? So that, you know, the thought is that we can go and do that, especially on the bump outs at Elm Street and South Avenue. We've shown on a plan that the turning movements work, right? And Michael's mentioned the fact that it does better define the intersection. Right now, you get to the intersection, because of the parked cars on either side, it's very difficult to know exactly where you're supposed to go and how you're supposed to traverse through it. Hence that white car in the intersection, that wouldn't happen in a conventional intersection. That wouldn't happen. They would definitely be over on their lane. So the thought is that we go in and we put it in, watch it, tweak it. It's exactly what we did on 4th Street when we did the bump outs on 4th Street. I had the fire trucks drive it. My plow trucks drove it. We had larger trucks drive down it just to see its navigation. And at that time, the plan worked very well. We didn't even have to make a tweak to it. So we feel that we've tried to address every concern. The interesting thing that Michael mentioned is that this came, one, it's done elsewhere, but 2, it came from the Western Council of Governments, which is a regional planning agency, through Fitzgerald and Halliday, which is a very prominent planner. we had a landscape architect provide a plan pro bono just of it. And then we had Maria look at it without necessarily looking at those other two plans. And she came up with the same plan. And Michael, in discussions we had with him, I don't want to speak for him, but he did say this was probably what he would have come up with as a concept plan as well. Now, the 5 spaces, you can go either way on, but I feel that is a downtown improvements and enhancement to the pedestrian experience. It also sends a message that the pedestrian is important to us here, and we want you to travel slowly through our village. So those are just some of the things listening that I wanted to bring out.
Okay. Hey, Michael, can you bring up that other slide that you had that showed the turning radius on?
Tiger will do it.
Yeah, that one.
That one. Mm-hmm.
And what kind of truck is that?
The WB40.
Yeah, that's not the largest tractor trailer truck, but a large tractor trailer truck.
Okay.
And then the other movement that we did was from South Avenue on.
Right. And have we tried our ladder, the fire truck?
We have not, but predominantly, I don't know if if the chief would actually drive down Elm Street. He's mentioned in the past that he would drive around it, but we could certainly, we have a turning template for it, but I believe we would still be able to make the 2 movements.
Okay. Shakeva, any thoughts? Other thoughts?
Oh, no.
A general question.
Chief?
Given the impact of this, is there any value to, before the improvements are permanent, putting it out for some kind of public comment period, publicizing it and letting the public chime in?
I think that's what we tried to do this past month, was to sort of wait and see what came up. I think
when Tiger does those,
we haven't heard anything.
Chalks it out and cones it out, and then people really see how it's going to.
Yeah, see, this is a tough one. This I'm undecided here as well. It's Jim, I understand picking up the 5 spots. I like that idea, but yet Tiger, you're convincing me that we kind of like the walkway. And
one thing on that, the 5 spots. The first 2 agenda items tonight were to close off and create that pop-up park.
Yeah.
If we have a nice section of bump out there that's 8 feet, you could essentially use that for these pop-up events and not have to close off.
Yeah, you could have it in front of from the Playhouse down to
have that whole area as your pop-up park events that we now have. And like you said tonight, we have this arch in the window could sprawl out on that whole area.
Without having to close the other street.
Without having to close off the roads.
Right.
Well, Tiger, as somebody who lives in town, and my neighbors and I and everybody, we try to walk as much as we can. And I 100% agree that downtown is that vibrant, that village, that center of the village, that street. So I agree with you in terms of having the sidewalk be more walkable and pedestrian friendly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And I understand the thought. Can you just hit that? Because my echo. Thanks. That if you lose the 2 feet, like Jim suggests, then the sight line is odd in that the sidewalk would be here and cars would be sticking out there. And it's just, I know it's tight. That truck shouldn't be there in the first place. It does slow everybody down, which is what we want to do because it's safer when everyone's going slower. So I would, the way I'm thinking is I would keep the plan as it is. It's a little different than what we're used to, but not being an expert on parking, but yet we've become a lot more knowledgeable. I'm going to go along with Mike and Tiger on this one. Is what my thoughts are. And Jim, I understand exactly what you're saying, but I think
Okay,
it just further
wanna...
enhances the walkability of downtown.
Yeah, I think it's quite walkable now, but I don't want to prolong the discussion. I've made the points I've made, and I understand, you know, people have a different view, so I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Tiger, I just want to be sure that the ladder can get through there. I'm assuming it can, but we just don't want to be cutting up tires on fire trucks either, on granite, you know, curbing.
Right. We have the turning radii for that. Our one of our consultants has the turning radius that we created once we bought the ladder.
Yeah.
So I'll get that template from him and we'll run it as well. I don't foresee a problem, but I'll speak to the chief as to whether, you know, the frequency of the ladder, you know, going down Elm Street, you know, would he be making these turns or would he not? But we'll run it and then I'll ask him what his opinion is.
Yeah, it's just that something, say there's an accident on Main, he has to go around.
Absolutely.
It's you know, he's got lights and sirens on. He's just going to go. So
right. No, we'll run the template similar to what you saw on these, and then we'll talk to the chief as well and get his feelings on it.
All right, and if you have to pull it back a couple feet, that I would give you the option to do that. All right.
If we're running into a problem with that, we most certainly will make amendments. Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so let's come to a vote here. I need a motion then to approve the plan as designed, subject to the review of Tiger and Mike Galante to make sure that there are ladders or any other town trucks that are large can make that turn from Elm to South, and also from South to Elm, going the other way as well. They got to be able to, you know, if it's coming north on South and then turning left on Elm, it's got to be able to make that turn too. All right.
Yeah, we'll check both movements as we did with the other truck.
We didn't talk about that flush curbing in front of basically B of A, right? But if we get a problem there, we can address that later. If you need a ballot or something in there, or some kind of planter.
Yes, we can do something where if we're starting to see abuse of the access aisle.
Right, because that's going to be somewhat flush with the street.
Correct.
Because of the handicap space. But if we have people pulling in there and parking as well as we've seen in the past, where they just come in and park on the crosswalk, you know, something nice and low, but yet firm that's not going to be moved, would be a good addition, I think. Okay. All right. So we need a motion to approve this with those minor adjustments as necessary. Do I have a motion? Then I'll ask Shakeva. Shakeva, do I have a motion?
Sorry. Yes. Okay. With the minor adjustments, is it the current plans or do we changing anything? I'm sorry.
No, current plans.
Yep. Okay. With the current plans and the minor adjustments, I suggest we
adopt. Okay. Jim, where are you on this?
Sorry.
Second?
Why don't you second, Paul?
Okay, I hear you. All right, I'll second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
I'm a nay.
All those opposed, so it's 2-1. I appreciate it, Jim. I do.
Thank you. Sorry about that. My house is a little noisy.
Thanks for hearing me out.
You're well.
I do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item, a Netflix movie proposal.
Paul, I'm on here, but I have just had to jump on a town council meeting, which I am taking notes for. So I'm going to let Mike Fucci, who's on here, take you through it. John DeFederico has been part of this conversation.
Okay.
Hi, guys. My name is Mike. I'm the location manager on the Netflix movie, The Noel Diary, and thanks for considering having beautiful New Canaan.
Hey, thanks for coming.
So we have 2 days of filming in the village. The first proposed date is Friday the 28th at a beautiful home on Winding Down Road. There's 2 scenes. There's a car that drives down the block, gets to the house. Our actor gets out and walks into the home, and then the other scenes take place inside the home. The film is it's a Netflix movie starring. Hold on one second. It's a Christmas movie that should be out next year on Netflix. It is starring Justin Hartley from This Is Us. It is Bonnie Bonilla is in it from Die Hard. Treat Williams, and directed by Charles Shire. It's a holiday movie about a young guy who's a famous writer. He comes home to find out that his mother's passed away, and he's in charge of her estate. And he discovers this mysterious diary that kind of takes him down a road, and he finds a lot about his family. And it's a little road trip movie between him and somebody that he meets that has to do with the diary. So no matter where we go, we're going to be making snow, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So the first day is there. It's at that house. We're going to be doing our staging at the St. Mark's Episcopal Church on Owen Ridge Road. So everything would be contained almost entirely to their property and to the properties adjacent to 2 Winding Down, and then the neighbor next door, which I think is 3 or 4 Winding Down. I talked to Lieutenant Ferraro about this. Everyone seems to be on board in theory, just pending a little bit more information. We just had a schedule change. Now it's officially that Friday, the 28th of May. Second day when we come back would be on Sunday night into Monday, June 27th into 28th. We have 1 or 2 scenes that we'd like to shoot around 6 p.m. on Elm Street, which we're still trying to fine tune that. But the bigger scene wants to take place in front of Town Hall on Main Street between Locust Avenue and East Avenue. Basically what I've been telling everyone, if you've ever seen the opening scene of the movie Christmas Story with little Ralphie with a BB gun, like that's the idea and scale of what we want to do. We want to put up one of those giant blow up screens, and I think we're going to be showing It's a Wonderful Life. And there's just tons of holiday and Christmas festivities going on. An ice skating rink, a little snow hill, booths everywhere, old school cars, a pretty big scene. And that scene's a complete overnight. We would start at around 8 p.m. and wrap by dawn. So with a big question, and again, we've spoke to Tucker about this, and Lieutenant Ferraro and Tiger was on a call, a few other people, would be a closure on Main Street between Locust Avenue and East Avenue. Now, the state DOT already has our permit. I believe that Mark Dixon from the film office is on the phone. Everything seems to be moving forward, and this is just my opportunity to meet you guys in person and to say thank you in advance, and hopefully we could move on with this.
Great. Well, thanks, Mike. Thanks for coming to New Canaan. Commissioners, any other thoughts?
What time would you propose closing Main Street on the 27th? What hours would we be closing it?
The road closure would be approximately 7 p. to 7 a. We're doing a big technical scout later on this week, Thursday and Friday, and I'll be able to fine tune it then.
Okay.
John,
can people get to the restaurants?
I'm sorry?
Can people get to the restaurants when you're closing the road?
Well, we're gonna get the restaurants on board like we would do in any other town. And when we're actually filming, if I'm there for 12 hours filming, first of all, the restaurants are gonna close around 10 or 11 o'clock. So the bulk of the scene is only going to involve 2 to 3 hours of restaurant closure. So while we're rolling, would be for a couple of seconds at a time, we would ask them to hold. Again, it's a Christmas movie, so it'll look a little strange, people in shorts and t-shirts walking down the block. So just as if we were shooting anywhere else, we would have PAs on the corner, respectfully asking residents to just hold a second while we get the shot, and then we would get them in. And again, what I always tell people, if I'm there for 12 hours filming, if we're rolling that camera for an hour and a half of those 12 hours, it's a very, very long time.
Okay. John?
No issues.
No issues?
Yeah, we'll be able to do it.
No issues.
Got the road closed already.
Right.
Subject to state approval and
subject to,
we'll notify all the businesses and let them know.
Yeah. When is the aquarium work going to be done on May?
That should be done. They're
we just got a little local construction going on kind of right in that spot. We want to make sure we're not doing that.
What about fire department?
Yeah, Tiger's aware.
Okay, and then the fire department can get out if they have to?
Yes.
Well, yes, absolutely. We're very cognizant of emergency vehicles. You know, we do this every single day, and we never do anything to, you know, prevent an emergency vehicle from getting by.
Yeah, it's not directly across the street, but just, I mean, you've seen it. You've seen the space.
It's very
okay, great.
We'd like to put a big wreath on the firehouse and then put a vintage fire truck, not perfect, obviously, but I'm not sure what direction it will be if my back is to Town Hall, to the right of the building.
Gotcha. Okay, great. I need a motion to approve.
I would move to approve the closure of Main Street for the filming of the Netflix movie on the evening of the 27th into the morning of the 28th.
Right. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Just remember, you're going to need
one thing.
Yep.
Go ahead. Our chief, Leon, has had extensive experience being on camera in various TV shows and crime shows. You're going to really want to do a screen test with him and try it apart for him.
You don't have to guarantee him a job. Just try him out. You know.
Just give him a shot. He's often thought of as like kind of a young John Wayne.
And how many officers would you need on this?
We'll figure it out.
Right, at least 10 or 20. I don't know. You may have to hire a lot of people. No, we're kidding, of course. All right, thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And ladies, appreciate it.
All right, now we want to make it easy for you to work with us and to come back. All right.
So much. We'd love to come back.
Great, thank you.
Enjoy your evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michael. Bye. Item F, building renovation update.
Work continues on either a renovation or a new building somewhere. Expectation is there might be some better direction next month. The first selectman's leading the effort. Everybody's doing great work and progressing along, so I'm sure there'll be a decision near term that you'll be all aware of. It's been an interesting effort.
I'm on the building committee as well. We did a site visit the other day down in Darien and went through their facility, pretty much every room, office, etc., and got a good taste of what they did. So, and we will probably go through Greenwich and Stamford as well, just to see larger buildings.
Yeah, and we can hear from Kevin about scheduling expectations.
That'd be good. Okay. Animal shelter update.
We've drafted a lease and it went to the vendor. The vendor's reviewing it, so contingent on any changes that might occur. And if the vendor's still in agreement, that would go to the Board of Selectmen meeting, because the Board of Selectmen would discuss that and sign off on it if they're in agreement. So it's moving along close to resolution.
Okay, good. Let's just run through the aquarium thing just to get that out of the way. What's the aquarium update?
They proposed a minor modification to the work that was already approved, but they need legal traffic authority to approve the modifications for state DOT approval. All the modifications look reasonable, and we can definitely work with what they proposed. There's reasonable depot routes. They just had to change it because they ran the turning radius for one location and they had to adjust it.
It didn't work.
So the adjustment is going to work fine. There's plenty of
all right. So we need a vote on that, I guess.
We need
approval,
legal traffic authority approval, so they can go to the state DOT and
okay. So why don't we give them that authority? I need a motion then to give aquarium the authority or approval to proceed with their modifications for their construction project.
Will that impact the parade route?
No, that works overnight. So yeah, that's not going to be on a holiday. So
when do they start? When are they supposed to start it?
I think they're still getting DOT approval on.
So they couldn't. They might not start till into June. Into June. Some
might not. Yeah, I'm not sure when. I think they want to start. I don't know if anyone from Aquarian is on. But Tiger had to jump off and go to town council.
Right.
I think they want to start as soon as possible. They've already been delayed, but they're going to get going as soon as they can.
Okay, so let's have a motion then to allow them to proceed as necessary for state approvals for this project. All right, a motion for that?
Motion to approve the request from Aquarian to amend their earlier request with the detour as now amended.
Okay, second, Kava?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good. Uniform general order update.
Sure, this is an update, a lot of housekeeping items and some clarifications of current uniforms to make sure the policy's in line. Major changes are on page 10 related to the approval of the vest carrier, and page 12 related to grooming standards, tattoos, jewelry, all that makes us compliant with our accreditation standard. And so this is months of work to get it to this point where it's before you for your approval.
Right. I went through it. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we not have any personal appearance requirements before? Looks like this is all new.
Not specific like that, no. Yeah. Not at least in this general order. It may be in other sections of our policies and procedures, but not something comprehensive like this.
Okay.
Okay, I'm a big fan of that new vest. I think it gets all the weight off the officer's waist and gets it higher on their chest. And it's also allows them to get in and out of cars and seats a lot easier. So I'm in favor of that for sure. We've had a couple officers try them out for the last 6 months, on the road, off the road, in the dispatch. It's a big improvement. I think they'll like them. So let's have a motion then to approve these general order updates.
I move that we approve the update to the general order regarding uniforms and appearance of officers of the New Canaan Police Department as outlined in the materials that we received.
Good. Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great, thank you. College course approval for Officer Conley.
Officer Conley is requesting approval for a graduate class at Liberty University, and he'll be reimbursed the expenses in accordance with our current labor agreement.
Excellent.
And what he has available in his account.
Okay, very good. Any discussion on that? No, none. Motion to approve?
We approve the college course for Officer Connolly.
Right, second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Any other matters need to be discussed in? So with that, then let's just go into executive session for a bit. All right. It's 7:20.
One second, Paul. I have to stop the recording and.
Yeah, I need a motion to go into executive session.
Move to go into executive session.
All right.
I second.
Okay.
Okay, just a second, Paul.